Hi there, and welcome to this episode of The Magician's Advice Recommends. Okay, in this episode I'd like to share a book with you, and it's a book that's not a new book, but it's a really old book. In fact, some people think it's possibly the oldest magic book that's been published, or that has been published. Put my teeth in here. The oldest magic book that's been published, and it's called The Discovery of Witchcraft. Now, it's quite a hefty tome. The Discovery of Witchcraft is by an author called Reginald Scott Esquire. Reginald Scott wrote this book in 1584. 1584, so it's even older than the J. Sankey books. It's absolutely awesome in that sense. What's it all about? So, if you go back to the 1500s, in the 1600s, there was the problem with witchcraft and people believing that entertainers and performers were witches, and you had people going out there doing magic and illusions and getting burnt at the stake or getting tried as witches. Some of them were doing it and pretending they were witches and pretending they could actually have those magical powers, and they were trying to get fame and fortune off the back of those skills. And obviously they were tried as witches. And then you had the people that were going out and performing, so entertainers, that were also being tried and pulled up and arrested when all they were doing was actually entertaining and performing. So this is actually a collection of pieces of writing from Reginald Scott, where he writes to different judges across England, across the land, and he writes to the different judges, the people in charge of the law, and says, stop arresting and burning these witches. They're not witches, they are people using this sort of sleight of hand skill that we now know today. And he explains how they do things in a sort of way to demystify witchcraft and to stop people getting hung, drawn and quartered. Now, this is a reprint, hence why it's in a lovely shiny clean front here. You can order them from Waterstones or your bookstore of choice. This is a reprint, it's not an original. You can get them from Waterstones or a bookstore of your choice. This had to be special ordered and sent in. I think it was around the £40–50 mark for this one. But inside it's fantastic. You can see all the old letters that were written to the judges and the magistrates of the land, telling them about witchcraft. And then in the second part of it, you have loads of different effects that the people of the day would have done, and they are explained in there for you as well. So there's parts on how to eat a knife and fetch it out of any other place, how to thrust a bodkin into your head without it being hurt, how to thrust a bodkin into a chicken's head without it being hurt, how to put a piece of lead into your eye and drive it out with a stick between the skin of your flesh and your forehead. So put something into your eye, a piece of lead, and then it comes out of your skin up here. I think Palantello did that recently on one of their things. There's lots of bits to old magic artwork, runes, things like the word abracadabra. There's loads of graphics in here and interesting things to look at. It really is a treasure trove of magical history. You probably won't get many effects out of it that you can then put into your performances, but I found it a fascinating read just to see where the magic we do today comes from in history. So yeah, I recommend you check it out. It's called The Discovery of Witchcraft. One of the most interesting effects in there I'd seen was how to put a needle through a chicken's head and the chicken to still be alive. And it's described in there in such a way that you put the needle through a very specific place between the bill and the chicken's brain, and you can take it out and the chicken will still be alive. It'll still be alive for about 3 days, and then you've got a dead chicken. So it's time to put the stew pot on and cook your chicken, which I think is a bit cruel, really. It's for the illusion, your chicken looks still alive, but actually no, in a few days it's going to be dead because you rammed a needle through its head. In here we've also got the first versions of, or the first printed versions of knife through arm. We have the little indent in the knife and you can pretend to put your arm through that. They've got old switching boxes, they've got all sorts of random strange things. How to make somebody dance naked. So how to hypnotise someone and make them dance around the room with no clothes on. Spoiler alert, it's a stooge. But then people were believing that this was powers that people had, so Scott's had to go and explain that to people, what's actually going on. how to transform the colour of your hat from blue to black and back to blue again. It's quite an interesting one. How to tell where a stolen horse is. So you had the witches and the old psychics of the olden days used to say, you've lost something, we use our powers and we'll work out where it is. It's quite an interesting read to how you can find any lost object and how you can earn some money by doing that. So anyway, it's Scott showing all these magical methods so that the people who are making the laws of the day are aware that actually these are entertainers, they're performers, or they're charlatans or tricksters. They're not actual witches. It's quite a fascinating read. I recommend, if you get a chance, grab it in a library, pop down to a bookstore. I've got my sticky notes and where I've got to and the things I found. I highly recommend it. It's The Discovery of Witchcraft by Reginald Scott, Esquire, 1584, I think. Yeah, check it out. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you'd like to check out the other videos we have on here, they're going to be popping up on the screen around me in a second, probably over this side or this side, somewhere on here. We also run a podcast called the Magician's Advice Podcast. Check that out as well. There'll be a link in the description below. And we also have some t-shirts, some mugs, some merchandise, so check those out. And I think that's about it. Oh yeah, we have a Facebook group as well. So if you'd like to come onto Facebook, say hi and have a chat. We've got a really friendly group over there. We talk all things magic. Probably not quite as old school as the Discovery of Witchcraft, but we're open to all conversations. Thanks ever so much for your time and tuning in. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode of Magician's Advice Recommends. Goodbye.